What's going on, YouTube? Back again. I scratch my face in the first 5 seconds. I don't know. I'm an idiot. Um, Back to talk about match directing and being a first time match director. Had a couple weeks now to decompress after the Rifles in the Arena match. Um, I've got some notes here on how to talk about this match, and hopefully I do a good job of staying on notes and not getting into feelings. Right. So I'm still upset about some of the way some of the things went down. I will say overall, 95% of the things went very well in the match. I give myself like a B minus as a match director, which I'll take for a first time go at it, um, with rudimentary help from various people. Let me first start off by saying I haven't written the board of the USPSA an email and like laid out some of the ideas I have. So this is not a poke in the chest to USPSA. It's just me on talking into my computer screen and 30 or 40 of you listening to it. So yeah, that is what it is. So first and foremost, the realization I've had is I should never have run this match. Some quick backstory on that. So these IPSC qualifiers for rifle and shotgun. So last year, I came out of my second battalion command in March. I had carpal and cubital tunnel surgery in April, and my arm wasn't working. And I had heard people talking about these shotgun qualifiers, and I had zero intentions of shooting all three. But there was one up at Clinton House, which is a couple hours away. I don't know. Nobody cared what I did. So I went up and shot it. I think I shot it on the weekend. I might have taken a pass. I don't really remember. I'm out of the Army. Um, so I went up and shot it, and I shot it at like 67, 68%, which is fine for me. I think it was 68. But bottom line was, after talking to people there, like I didn't even sign up for IPSC category, but after talking to people there, I understood that I shot well enough to qualify for the delegation to go to Greece. So I literally called my wife after the first night and was like, hey, because I shot really good the first day, didn't shoot as good the second day. And I was like, hey, do you want me to shoot two more of these and do we want to go to Greece in 2026? Her answer was yes. So I did. All right. And through it, I kind of got a little bit more involved in the organization, USPSA. That was the first level 2 I had shot. Anything besides level 1 I had shot in USPSA. So I really got a lot more involved in USPSA last year from the multi-gun perspective. I'd been shooting a lot of level 1 pistol matches while I was up in northern Georgia because there's a lot up there and there's a lot of really nice stuff up there. So when Riverbend was kind of hitting its peak and really getting its stride, and Scott was doing good stuff up there. I take that back. I worked. Well, I hadn't shot it technically. I worked the level 2 up at Riverbend. I worked the first Peach last year in 2025. I worked that one. So that was really my first experience with anything besides a level 1 in USPSA. So learned some stuff about some stuff there. And so when rifle came around this year, and they were putting feelers out there to, hey, we need people to shoot to hold rifle stuff. I threw my name and Arena in the match to hold a rifle qualifier. There was no USPSA club at Arena. I paid out of pocket to stand the club up and all those things. I've paid out of pocket right now for all the member fees and all that stuff, just because Arena and I haven't settled up yet. They'll pay me back for it, but because all my finances right now are running through Arena. Like I didn't stand up my own nonprofit or for-profit or anything like that. Everything's running through Arena right now because they're established. But we should never run the match. One, less about my experience. Again, I think I did okay. Gave myself a B minus, and we ran some. There were shotgun qualifiers last year that were much worse run than the rifle match I just ran. The reason we should never run it is the local infrastructure did not exist, and most of my frustration throughout the process revolved around two things: staff and sponsors. So that's some of this is kind of staff and sponsor. Actually, a lot of this is staff and sponsor focused. The reason Georgia Peach ran well last April was because they had a great staff already on hand. They had ROs trained. They had a team that worked together. All those things. I did not have that out in Arena. I had me, and I had Robert Brantley, who runs Arena, who didn't know, who shot his first action shooting match a month prior to this match. right? So like me explaining, I was taking pictures of walls and bases and stuff and trying to show him what we needed to build to run this match. Um, and what the other piece that led into was finding range officers and an RM. Uh, Talk range officers first. I went on Facebook on the USP, the Area 6 and the Georgia and the Alabama and a couple other sites, and I made a bad assumption when I started this that range officers would just show up. Range officers ended up being probably the most limiting factor of the match. I had 5 USPSA trained range officers and myself, and then I had the Marine Corps shooting team who were great people, but they aren't USPSA trained range officers. So for a level 2, if you look at Appendix A1, you have to have, on every stage that's being shot, you have to have a USPSA trained range officer or certified range officer. By the way, pet peeve I developed during this match, those are not the same. There's an RO course and there's a CRO course. Those are different. People using them synonymously is wrong. Words matter. Sorry. I digress. So that was part of it, right? Finding just RO staff. And then the other piece of it was finding a range master. I was working with a guy named Adam. And if you are familiar with multi-gun, you probably know who Adam is. And he was helping me find an RM. And the first guy was all about it, but was flighty and life and work got in the way, so he didn't work out. Then Adam tried another guy who was local to him, and I've met the guy and I was excited about him. But he was RMing another USPSA match up closer to where he lives, and then Adam just kind of worked down his Rolodex and found me the guy I found. Without making this about that, I've figured out in the first hour that he and I met in person that we were going to have problems that weekend. A little hindsight being 2020, there were a lot of yellow flags in the email traffic back and forth that now make a lot of sense, and they were red flags. But bottom line, we're no longer. We talked a little bit based on some other stuff that happened at the match that is no reason to be rude and not talk to him and give him points of contact for, but nothing that's involving me anymore. So he and I are just not going to talk anymore. On that note, range master, match director. This is something I think USPSA should clean up because I think it's confusing in the rulebook. And I've got the multi-gun rulebook pulled up right here. All right, so if you go to 7.1.6, which is range master, it says has overall authority over all persons and activities within the entire range, including range safety, the operation of all courses of fire, and application of these rules. I think the first clause in that sentence is confusing where it says overall authority over all persons and activities within the entire range. Because when you go down to 7.1.7, match director handles overall match administration, including squatting, scheduling, range construction, and the coordination of all support staff and the provision of services. His authority and decisions will prevail with regard to all matters except and in respect of matters of these rules, which are the domain of the range master. So the reality is the range master is there to worry about rules and should stay the hell out of everything else. The match director should be in charge of everything else. And that was where we had friction, and we'll leave it at that. I think, like many rules in the USPSA rulebook, and NROI fully acknowledges this, if you only read one part of it, you lose context on what's above and below it, right? And they cover that in the range officer course. You go to the range officer course. But I think that's something that caused us issues. Bottom line, I think, and now the reality there is I think I had a one-of-one experience. I don't think everybody has the experience I had with my range master, or this sport would not still be going. I think the way it's supposed to work is you live in an area, you have a match, a regular match, you get to know people, you go shoot matches in your area, you either go you shoot level 2s. I live in Georgia, so I would go shoot the Florida State match and the Alabama State match, which I'm shooting, and maybe South Carolina, which runs a pretty good match. And then you get to meet all these people, and you meet the range masters, and as you meet people, you learn who you would and wouldn't work with together. My range master and I were never going to work well together. It was never going to happen, and unfortunately, we did not realize that till execution, which was a failure. Um, yeah. So that in and of itself is why I should never run a match. I got everything else done through brute force and ignorance. I had enough walls. I had enough targets. We had enough this. I had enough that. Had everything else. What I didn't have was the right people on the ground. I still don't think. I talked to one of the ROs that was there on the ground. He said the same thing I was feeling. He's like, "You don't have enough people, man." I was like, "I know." I had two ROs. What the way we ended up managing it was we put an RO, a trained RO, and a USMC person with every squad, and then I put my two excess people on the shoot house to help manage that, and then life went pretty good. But what that created was the squads, especially some of the shooters on the squads, were then able to go, well, is this how every other squad shot this stage? Is this really the rule? Is that really the rule? And what I think that led to was a lot more range masters getting called out as, hey, is this how this is run? Is this how it's run? Whereas if you're the fifth squad to shoot a stage that day, and the ROs have been on the stage all day, and you say this is how everybody has shot the stage, and we've enforced this rule evenly on every squad, that generally stops arguments with people right there. But because we had ROs traveling with squads, it created some friction and just led to more range master calls. Um, yeah, so that's why I shouldn't have ran the match. The other thing was kind of I've written down here. One of the other things I have is written down is know your facility. Second match I ran on arena. I knew what I was going to lose, but it comes down to more like what gets muddy, what doesn't get muddy. It's what assets does the range have. I felt like I was nickel and dime arena for everything, and they're like, well, why don't we have a dump truck full of gravel, which by the way is tens of thousands of dollars. Like people don't understand how much this stuff costs, and when you understand how much life costs, you realize that if you don't have it, you don't have it. Arena is working on building those sites back up. I will not run another major out there until there's some improvements to the facilities where they're rainproofed. I think that's the so what there. Or if I do, it'll be in a very different manner, and I'll have to do it very different. We'll just leave it at that. All right. So my personal biggest thing was sponsorship. I had some great companies come through. I did have a company the morning of registration. This company had committed to, and this is a great company. I have pulled a gun from this company out for prize table. All right, I was a bigger fan of this company. I am a less of a fan now, but they do a ton for the shooting sports. They're out there. Their name's everywhere. I will not say, hey, you should go buy this product. But if somebody came to me and said, hey, is this a good product? I would say yes, and here's what I know about it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. I will not discourage someone from buying the product, but I also won't recommend it. The bottom line, this company had committed back in February to supporting a match in May. I was late for that. I was told this, and I kind of ignored it because I was worried about other stuff. If you are running a major match and you need sponsorship, companies are committing marketing dollars, because that all comes out of marketing dollars, in fourth quarter. So between like October 1st and Thanksgiving is when you need to be emailing your points of contact at companies and trying to get their marketing dollars. There were large companies that I thought would be easy that said no, and then there were small companies that stepped up big. Hunter's HD Gold says yes to everything, but if you're a new match director, you probably don't understand it. The other thing is you don't know who to email. I have a spreadsheet of everybody I emailed, and I would say 70% of those was me just hitting send on the information page, and maybe someone in the complaints department forwarded it to the right person. Maybe they didn't. I didn't hear back from a lot of those. A few of them I did hear back from, and they said, hey, you're on the wrong spot on the web page, or this part of the web page, or this a whole other web page that we have set up that maybe you knew about, maybe you didn't. Maybe my Google foo wasn't good enough. I don't know. But this goes back to another thing that I think USPSA could help out with. I'm going to use Hunter's HD Gold because they were a sponsor, right? So Hunter's HD Gold is a sponsor of USPSA. I don't think that should commit Hunter's HD Gold to supporting every single level 2 and above, even though he probably would, because he supports literally 500 matches a year. But what I think that should be able to do is when I am a match director running a level 2, I think I should get a list of points of contact from potential sponsors from USPSA. These are USPSA sponsors. Here are their points of contact. Email them to decide if they want to support your USPSA match. I personally think that would be a good use of USPSA's resources, and I think most sponsors probably wouldn't. That would not be a deciding factor of, oh, I don't want to get a couple hundred emails from more matches that I didn't know about to get my name out more. Because here's the reality of USPSA, and this is not a secret to anybody, is all of that USPSA sponsorship goes into nationals. So if you're not one of the 500 to 800 people that get to shoot one of the 2 nationals or 3 nationals, then USPSA sponsorship currently does not matter to you. There's a push inside the organization to start pushing stuff down to local matches. We'll see what that looks like. If it's a box of targets every year or something like that, we'll see. But from a match director standpoint, I think that would be very useful to at least give them, hey, here's some more points of contact. Because what I found was when I got to the right person, when I got to the person that was the marketing decision maker, they didn't all say yes, but more of them said yes. So luckily, and I will give him a shout again. Luckily, Hunter Constantine with belt with his concealed carry belts said yes. So the way these matches went, these IPSC matches went last year was the first one I attended. You bought into a raffle, and then there's just kind of most people that bought into the raffle got a thing out of the raffle, and like I was the only one I was planning on shooting, so I spent $200 on raffle tickets, and I got a $400 gun case from Magpul back. So investment worked. People were getting Razor Gen 1s and things like that. People were getting very good stuff. The other matches I went to, the way they worked, the other 2 I went to, the way they worked was essentially they had 80 competitors, they had 80 prizes, and you got something. Maybe it covered your match fee, maybe it didn't. It was what it was. It wasn't as good as pulling something off the winning prize table, but because of the nature of these matches where the same 5 to 6 people win the categories every time, it kind of spread the goods out a little bit more, which someone like me who wants to be part of the delegation appreciated. The other thing I will say about USPSA in this is, and this is my background as an Army guy, is leadership. So I did email my area director and say, hey, would you like to come out? And we had a conversation. He's running a local match. It was like a month out, right? So he probably already had practice score open, all those things. This is not an indictment on the Area 6 area director. But from a leadership perspective, this is where, and I heard some of this discussion on, it was either Hunter's HD Gold or NROI podcast. Right now, the leadership that is the board is not doing things that only leaders can do, in my opinion. I don't remember ever having a board member at any of the shotgun qualifiers. Troy was at Multi-Gun Nationals because I think he was the range master, and it's a national, so I think he's actually required to be there. But it wasn't a shotgun qualifier last year. And so my point here is USPSA as a sub-entity of IPSC, if you're holding an event that's going to qualify people to go to IPSC Worlds, there should be some investment or some leadership from the organization present. And that doesn't mean Troy has to be at everything. That means somebody should be at everything. On the pistol side, Nationals and IPSC Nationals are the only 2 events you currently can attend to go. I'm willing to bet the board members are at those 2 events. All right. Well, that is once every 4 years when it comes to IPSC World. So why are board members not present at other IPSC World qualifying events? And I'm not saying every board member should be present, but it would be nice to have a representative from the organization there. The other thing that would have been nice to have, I'll say that. And there is talk of going to having a rifle nationals or a shotgun nationals or some other annual events as this thing that is now qualifying for IPSC Worlds matures inside USPSA. But that is my thought is if USPSA is going to continue to be the body that governs it. They need to have a organizational presence, not some random match director present at these events on behalf of the organization. My thought. The last thing I would say on this is media coverage, right? So Jake Martin's, it seems like Jake Martin's, I think, is the media guy for USPSA. He seems like he's doing a regular once a month or so on Hunter's HD Gold podcast. And he's talking about, we've got F5 showing up at this, Leighton's got action, whatever, which he was in France covering, you got the U.S., a senior representative of USPSA's covering, in his private world, covering a European match around the same time that we're running an IPSC qualifier. As a match director, it kind of hurts. Leighton's trying to run a business. I'm not going to get into his business decisions. He's probably going to get way more followers out of that than he would out of my match. I get it. It's a business decision. But as a match director trying to do something on behalf of the organization, it hurt, right? It's just the reality. But yeah, so zero media coverage. Again, going back to if it was IPSC Nationals or it was USPSA Nationals, which are the other qualifying events for pistol, USPSA would have made sure there was media coverage there. As it was, no support from USPSA for media coverage for a World Shoot qualifying event. So that's kind of where I'm at for being a match director. I should never run the match. I did not realize how hard it would be to get volunteers. That's why, and that's solely the reason why I said I should never run the match. Is just because the volunteer base just wasn't there to run the match, which caused a lot of pain and a lot more work on my part. But we got it done. I would like to see USPSA more involved in sponsorship for people that are putting themselves out there and running level 2, level 3 events. I would imagine they're kind of involved with the area matches. I don't know, just based on, you've got the board members are involved with those, right? So I'm assuming there's more USPSA support. And then, I would like to see USPSA help out, especially for these World Shoot qualifying events, help out with marketing a little bit. Like I said, Jake mentions it every time he's on the podcast, and I appreciate the shout out. He didn't give it to me, but to the match, I appreciated that. But, he's referencing individuals who posted footage from the match instead of having someone like F5 or Action Shooting Live or someone like that present at the match. So those are my thoughts on match directing in the match and how USPSA could help out, specifically this thing that we are trying to figure out, which is qualifying for shotgun and rifle world shoots. And I think PCC might fall into this. There's a lot of discussion out there on what PCC looks like, but mini rifle, right? Like I would guess that the people that shoot rifle worlds might be pretty good people to go shoot mini rifle. It's the same thing. It's just different ballistics. Your ballistic window is just shortened up quite a bit with the 22 instead. But it's going to be an AR platform, and it sounded like most of the people were still running a 1-6 or 1-10 types optic. So you've got this base. That's something I would be interested in, right? So if I'm going to a world shoot 3 times a year, and I'm going to all these 3 times every 4 years, because I'm not going to qualify for pistol because I can't go to all those matches and these. It'd be something I'd be interested in if there was a way to qualify. But right now there aren't even matches to qualify. And the conversation I've heard is pulling kids out of Steel Challenge, which is a zero movement sport, into a sport where the movement is equally, if not more important to the shooting. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on match directing. If you want to do it. Have fun. I don't know if this is what I wanted to do. All right, have fun, YouTube. We'll talk to you later. Bye.